green-eyed hamsters. Jealousy is an emotion often found in individuals whose estimation of their own worth exceeds their achievements. It can be conjured when they behold something in another person that they dearly want for themselves, but that they are unable to obtain or attain on their own. They deeply resent the person who can do what they cannot. And more specifically, they resent the recognition given to that successful individual by people in that master's field of endeavor. But beyond this garden variety of corrosive envy, there's a type whose lack of ability keeps them in a transparent, to them, cage of limitation. They are fiercely attracted to those whom they wish to emulate. These hamsters, meager in mind and talent, have lives fueled by jealousy of the people who can do what they cannot, and are incensed when they witness proclamations of admiration that they themselves cannot garner through their own works. Here is a pattern. A green-eyed hamster will encounter a work of a creative person, and they will love it so much that they wish to be able to produce something that might be loved to the same extent by other people. So, the hamster does what he can to imitate the creative work that he loves. Unfortunately, the hamster, unlike a developing creative individual, can only produce feeble imitations and poor regurgitations of the work he admires. The hamster then seeks out his role model, and while praising the master, the ultimate goal is to somehow be connected with him. The hamster then seeks out his role model, and while praising the master, the ultimate goal is to somehow be connected with him, so as to get a rub off of him, a classic case of coattail riding. Truly creative individuals in the development part of their career may imitate role models, but they are fiercely self-critical, and would never even think to present their student efforts to the master. They wait until they have created something that is worthy of attention. The green-eyed hamster will feel that anything he produces is somehow to be bronzed and celebrated, and more importantly will eagerly point out to others that he is a personal associate of the creator in hopes that this will gain him respect by association. And this tactic can work with many herd folk, that convinces the green-eyed hamster that he is not in that cage defined by his limitations. The creative person who has become the focus, victim, of our hamster's obsession may find this admiration to be fine, up until the point when the hamster begins to submit his own meager efforts in hopes that peer recognition may be forthcoming. The polite creator will perhaps make some non-committal but positive comments, suggesting that the hamster needs to put more work into his products. Brutal honesty is often avoided. Creative people generally have an abundance of energy and a large outpouring of ideas. They have strong egos and think that, perhaps with encouragement, the hamster might finally begin to produce something of worth, or may just move on and find something more suited to his limited abilities as a means for occupying his time. A creator might give the green-eyed hamster something to do as a busy work. Let the hamster be an apprentice or secretary. Once the hamster is set to running in his wheel, he does not have time to force his own paltry doings on his betters. But woe unto the creator and his associates if the hamster stops being thusly preoccupied. Previous positive comments will be brandished as warrants demanding that his weak products be granted status beyond their merits. The creator's politeness is turned against him. Of course, another problem arises when the hamster encounters a person who uses merit as his standard, not a herdling. Such a diabolical individual might say, well, good for you for having been privileged to be with a proven creative person whom I admire. But now where might I find your great works? The green-eyed hamster then reaches into his drawer and pulls forth some sadly mediocre makings and presents them with a flourish to the questioner, emphasizing that the master has praised his efforts. The expectation is that he too will be lauded as a peer of the acknowledged master. However, when the meritocrat's response does not present the level of praise so desperately sought and thought to be his due by the green-eyed hamster, it is now time for the hamster to revile him and claim he lacks taste or expertise. The meritocrat then begins to wonder if the master himself might have lacked judgment when having allowed the hamster to be an associate. Of course, the relationship with the master may never really have been all that the green-eyed hamster claims it was. But the master is not privy to these hamsterly campaigns, and thus cannot say to the meritocrat with a wink and a nudge that he was only being nice. In the Church of Satan, we have a policy of rejecting the practice of noblesse oblige. Literally, nobility obliges. This is a medieval concept in which the upper classes, wealthy or highborn folk, were considered bound towards assisting the lower classes because of their elevated status. In the Church of Satan, our stratification is based on merit. Hence, our nobles are such because of the development of their creative skills. On my very first meeting with Dr. LeVay, he said to my wife and I that the church did not support the idea that the talented creators were required to assist the weaker wannabes who were also members. This was because at the time a far less talented member was trying to use the commonality of membership as a reason to gain my assistance in her own rather lackluster musical projects. And so, pleased by such a rationale and just policy, I politely disengaged myself from the clingy member, who then ran off to try and find other musical members to help realize her vision. If you are a creator, either a recognized master in your field or even a talented newcomer on the rise, beware of the green-eyed hamsters. They seem like such little things, and you have such an abundance of ability that you'll think, what can it hurt to be charitable to this talent-challenged person? However, the time will come when the hamster demands more than he deserves, and you will be forced to disengage yourself with grace, but your gifts of mild praise will now be used against you. The green-eyed hamster will cling with his nasty little teeth to your reputation, and those who admire you will perhaps even question your judgment for ever having been kind to the now vituperative hamster. So, dear doers, recognize those green-eyed hamsters. When these wannabes come a-calling, either refuse to comment on their efforts or be brutally honest. That's the best form of hamster repellent available. Otherwise, you might find yourself with a disgruntled parasite out there who, since he has nothing better to do, will put all of his energy into besmirching your fine works. No good deed goes unpunished.